In today's session, I know I sent you all the topic for the day in advance so you could ponder it. I have my notes on my phone about that. Do any of you have it to pull up? Let's just go off of that because this is really good stuff.
Yeah. Thoughts. How we have shaped our personal worlds with thought, both good and bad. Managing our emotional thoughts and why it's so crucial. How to discern between thinking, mind/logic, and inspired thought/intuition.
Yeah, that's good. So, about that. I guess we can start it off with, does anybody have an example that's on the top of their head of how, they dwelled on something a lot and it came to pass? Dwelled in your mind about it a lot?
I got some things I'm still waiting to pass.
The reason I, picked that as a topic is because, the way I see it, everything that we experience out in the world or in our personal lives or whatever is a matter of thought, whether it's our thoughts or somebody else's thoughts. And how, I always talk about the path, but the reason is because when you're on the path, you get inspired thoughts. And inspired thoughts lead to, the next step on the path and the next step and the next step for, our expansion, not just, but you can also think yourself down an alley or into something that can bring harm.
But also, I was reading this thing about that recently about how can anxious thoughts and stuff like that become manifestations, and how is that different from manifesting? But it was saying how that's not really how it works with stuff like that because there's not intention behind you thinking like that. And ever since I read that, I've been kind of thinking, okay, that does actually make a lot of sense because when you think to manifest stuff, you're putting your intention behind it, putting all your energy into it. And I know there's still energy in those other thoughts, but I don't know. I feel like that was just a good point that somebody had brought up.
Oh, wait a minute, before you go, don't lose it though. But so what do you mean when you they said that it doesn't work like that because you don't have intention behind it if it's something negative?
Yeah, or if it's something
anxious,
that you're just worrying about or something like that.
Okay.
I think the whole thing with that whole, yes, that makes sense because you're putting a direct intention behind if you want to manifest some money or something like that. But I feel like what we've been discussing recently, me and you, Mommy, when you think, when you're having an anxious mind, and so you're having anxious thoughts and whatnot, I feel like what makes those thoughts dangerous and to be wary of is the emotion behind it, what you was telling me.
Mm-hmm.
I feel because I know when I'm in a low vibrational state, my emotion is very intense and not purposely or anything. I just if I'm resonating in a bad vibe, I'll attract other negative things. So I know if I'm over here just thinking something in my head, I need to kind of watch out because I'm unintentionally attracting other things without even thinking or saying anything. So if I'm thinking a thought and I'm da 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 or whatever, my emotion's gonna be too heightened, and I feel like that is the intention part.
I mean, that's how I see it too, as far as intention goes. Because we, think about a lot of things all throughout the day. We're constantly thinking, unless we're meditating or something. But it's the emotion, and I know people talk about that a lot. But when I've tested it on myself, and when I've watched y'all specifically, since you guys are growing up and you have a lot more worldly experiences and how it takes you in your emotions, I specifically watch it in y'all and see how things come about. That's why I'm whoa, be careful, when you're in a certain heightened emotional state, be careful of what you expose yourself to, because you'll start syncing up with other things in that same vibrational frequency.
Yeah.
And then you'll start having experiences like that. So it's not just, thought and even intention. It really and at least just what I've experienced, has been when you really got some type of passion or, desire behind it. Passion, desire, emotion, some feeling behind it,
Yeah.
which is what makes it show up in your world.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But there's that, but then there's also thoughts, when you try to create stuff, that's like not accidental, but that's just like daily moving through the day, managing your emotional thoughts type of thing, or like they say, when you get off on the wrong side of the bed, and start your day off, strange or whatever. But, that's because there's an like if you stub your toe, there's behind that. But you can create with your thoughts too by like imagining. That's the part that excites me so much, and that I've been learning to, or not learning, but taking notice of in our lives is the imagination piece, where we've been bringing things about through our imagination. And imagining is like more than just thinking to me. That includes the emotion and the wonder, and like when you start daydreaming about how you want your life to be, or your love, or who you in love with, or something like that. That's when you get built up emotions from imagining it. And that's probably one of the things that I've been expressing, like on my social media, and just really my whole life to people. That's that whole thing about dreaming big and being on your path and stepping into your greatness and all of that. Is because you can imagine that into being. And there's a lot of stuff behind that you got to clean up and monitor, that to really make that be a thing. But that's what I think we've all been trying to practice, or refine and practice in ourselves. I know you, Zoe, have imagined almost everything on your list into real life, or no?
Yes, but I feel like that's most of the stuff that I would
Turn so they
to-
can see you a little bit with your beautiful hair.
Okay, I think most of the things that I've imagined or like have manifested to get is partially because of you. Well, majority because of you, and you're very like, okay, fine, like, I'm giving, and I feel like that's why I had all the stuff that I have. So, but let me not take it away from the power.
So Zoe is our precious Leo of the group,
Okay, what's that?
and she gives me such a hard time about all of this stuff all the time. She's like, mommy, it's not the energy, it's just because of boom, 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 some realistic stuff.
Sometimes it is.
I mean, I get that. Hey, I'm not denying that that's your perspective, and that's fine. And and that's another thing, and you always get on me about this too, and I always say, I just want to share my experience and expose y'all to my experiences with all of this, and then you guys decide what resonates and what doesn't resonate, and you create your own way of making moves through life and how you see it and stuff. And you always like, no, you don't. But I really do mean that. I really do. My parents didn't force any particular way of thinking, but they allowed me to discover it for myself. And I did, and there were different things along my, life journey that prompted me to go deeper and deeper and deeper into, the mysteries of life and how things work and God and all the stuff. And I hope that for y'all for real. I really don't want you guys to just take what I'm saying to be the truth, because it really even is still only from my perspective. So I respect that, and I, don't want to knock you down for not always agreeing with me, and that's fine.
Okay.
Well, to kind of
not necessarily proven that stuff works or anything. But I don't know. I tend to find that like I'll catch myself daydreaming, I guess. Well, okay, let me just lay out the example. Right when I first went to school and started school or whatever, like maybe like a couple months, like maybe a couple weeks in, I was like daydreaming, trying to see me graduate and trying to get this out the, like see if this is really about to be a thing. And I just could never see that full video playing out with me graduating. I didn't know what it was, because it was like, I know I need to be in school and like I don't have no desire to not be in school. But I could never put that film together in my head to make sense. And then I eventually ended up, you know, leaving school or whatever, but like with a very like, oh, that made sense why, you know, I couldn't see myself graduating because I was supposed to drop out, or, you know. And same with like my car. Like, it was a lot of daydreaming involved with that, along with, like, me trying to make things work and da-da-da, but then, like, nothing would ever work, and then the perfect thing came.
Yes. I feel like because it leads you to your highest
Potential outcome.
Yeah, your highest potential outcome. You know, because we could choose, you could have chose a hoopty, and then you were trying to. But that was not the highest.
Real raggedy one, actually.
I mean, really, and you were really trying to make that work.
It was near a big body.
Yes, it was. And
green. No
and
panels.
Had, you know, yeah, it was. And so anyway, you know, you were blocked by that, and ended up with your highest potential outcome based off of your circumstances at the time. And you know, I think a lot of times people get discouraged when, you know, they want something or wish for something or even intend something and it doesn't work out, and they say, it ain't no magic. You know, I'm calling it magic, but you know, it is. Well, not that it is, but it's a matter of trusting the path and trusting how things unfold. And if you know, cleaned up your thinking and the way you know, treat other people, and I mean, it's a host of things that go along with being in a really good flow on your path. But I know in that particular case, you got the highest thing you could get for that. And you too, Kyra. You know, I mentioned this to you the other day. What's so funny?
Nothing.
You over there going to sleep? About Peru. And I know you were going back and forth for a minute trying to choose. So the backstory is that was when you were wanting to take a gap year when you graduated from high school going into college. And we decided that it might be good for you to take some sort of trip to go out into the world and see how other cultures live, and you know, we live in Atlanta, so you know, it's a very a lot of
mainstream.
Okay, that's a good word. You know, and so I thought it would be a good opportunity for you to go and explore how other cultures live, and to see that there are various ways of how life is thought to be good. You know what I'm saying? And so you had two places you were going back and forth with that you were trying to choose. Are you remembering this?
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know how you became passionate, it seems like to me, along the way about that, going out of the country by yourself. Was it just something to do and it turned into that, or were you imagining and dreaming, and when did you become passionate about that?
I don't know. I kind of feel like before I went, I kind of just like wanted to go on a trip, and GLA was like a good program that had a balance between like helping the other community, exploring the community, and doing tourist things. So when we found GLA, it was just like the perfect program for me to do for what I was trying to do since I wasn't in school. And So I remember I was going back and forth. I don't remember what the second place was, but I remember once I had found Peru and they sent it, like we started paying and like getting all the stuff and got the itinerary and everything. Once like I started, I feel like really once I started like actually traveling, because even just getting there was like, okay, this is different than being in high school at my mom's house. Very different. And it was just like, I wouldn't say my first glimpse of independence, but it was like, okay, I have to actually do this like by myself and get to where I'm supposed to be going in a whole nother country. So
Where they didn't speak English at the airport,
yeah,
dang near, and you had a layover
yeah,
in a foreign airport.
right. And I also, yeah. So
You
it
had
was
to keep your thoughts together during that, didn't you? Because you were getting ready to panic. And I mean, if you had kept on panicking, I was like, calm back down, because nobody was speaking English.
yeah. So I feel like really once I started traveling, even just in the airports, like I was saying, and then once I got there, we ended up doing a whole bunch of stuff that was really like good for expansion and just to see how a different culture lives. And something that always really stuck with me from that trip was just seeing how grateful and appreciative other people are who don't have as much as us. Like with GLA, they take you into, it's like service-based traveling, and so they take you into parts where it's just not like Cusco or Machu Picchu. So like we were really seeing how people really live in Peru outside of the tourist area, and it was just really interesting to see how, just like I said, appreciative they were for the small things that we were doing for them. And like their kids would make toys out of like sticks and leaves and stuff, like little kites, and they would be having so much fun, one ball, and be having so much fun. So that was really eye-opening. And then like even now there's like little things that will happen, and that reminds me of that trip and just Peru as a whole, how energy charged Peru is and how significant it is as far as like spirituality and stuff like that goes.
Do you feel like you were activated in some type of way after being there?
I mean, I think it was definitely like a big turning point. Like it gave me a new perspective for sure.
Well, as far as like one of the questions was or topics was managing your emotional thoughts, the managing piece. You know, again, from my perspective, you know, I with my own self on a regular basis and my own thoughts, but in watching y'all, you know, maneuver through your own lives, it has been a lot of instances where we've had discussions, you know, in the midst of some challenge or whatever you all were particularly facing, where you really had, it was like a session where we had to really ground the managing of our thoughts so that they don't take you down, you know, a path that, you know, I know y'all don't want to go down. Do y'all, I mean, I know we don't want to talk about all of our, you know, stuff in life, but do you think that that is something that y'all had to actually, I mean, I've seen y'all have to practice it, but do you realize ever having to practice managing your emotional thoughts to keep you from going in a direction you didn't want to go in?
Yes. Matter of fact, just the other day, that day that I had came over here, I was having a really hard time managing my thoughts and emotions. And then after we had our conversation or whatever, after we had our conversation and you had gave me a new piece of perspective on my situation, I feel like I really just since that time, like I've really started to micromanage my thoughts. Not in a sense of like, oh my God, what am I thinking? But that whole aspect of an anxious thought, a thinking thought, and then an inspired thought. Like I've really been sitting down with myself and like differentiating between the two, because I would tend to have a lot of anxious thoughts And I feel like with me switching up the emotion behind my thoughts, that has really like I'm really happy today. And yesterday I was really happy, but like that day that I came over here, like I wouldn't have been able to say that. So yeah, and it all started with, you know, a change of my thoughts and a change of the emotion behind my thoughts and perspective.
Right. So don't you? And I know this is a thing that you are probably going to express in some kind of way at some point, but your whole thing is about perspective. So do you think that's like one of the ways that you use to manage your emotional thoughts, is to switch your perspective on the situation?
Yes, very much so. And I feel like that is a turning point for a lot of conflicts, I guess, or internal conflicts that we have. I feel like it all has to do with the perspective that we have on it. Because I feel like the main reason that I switched up my like emotion behind my thoughts or whatever is because I gained a new perspective that made me view a situation differently. And now regardless if we was talking about thoughts and you was like, okay, switch up your thoughts or whatever, I could have just switched up my thoughts, but if I had the same perspective on the situation that I had, that would have still held me back. So yes, with that being said, I also have a book on perspectives coming out soon.
Well, you know, so then that also is like tied to something I have had to, not had to, but something that we've discussed, you know, individually whenever y'all, you know, wanted to talk about stuff, is if everything, you know, regarding emotions and anxiety and worry and stuff like that, is if everything just exists as a potential, then you can choose which potential you want to dwell on and make yourself feel better, so that you don't have to walk around, you know, in a bad mood all day or whatever. And meaning, like, you know, if you're over here worried about a situation, then there's the potential that it could turn out terrible, and there's the potential that it could turn out just the way you want. And both of them don't even exist yet. So if that's the case, then choose the potential that's going to make yourself feel better and make you get in a higher vibration. And we always have that option. And if we're in an angry rage or in a bout of sadness or something like that, if you could just get to the point where you could say, wait a minute, every single time you don't feel good, I mean, when you're happy, you know, most likely want to stay happy or in a good feeling space. But if you can remind yourself every time you get down, or even if you don't feel like it, just remember that one thought. Oh my God, I can choose which of these potentials I want to dwell on, because that's the part, dwelling on it, because you're playing something over and over in your head, but none of them have existed yet. So if that's the case, then why not choose the thought to dwell on that's going to, you know, maybe your potential, you know, good side to it. Dwell on that. Create that movie in your mind to play over and over again. Because, you know, and I ain't saying that from the perspective of I ain't never had to deal with nothing. I mean, I'm always having to trick myself into a space of feeling good about something and having a new perspective on it, so that I can vibrate in at least a neutral space, so I don't start creating a bunch of stuff I don't want. So, you know, I wanted to like slide that in there at least, because I think that is probably the main thing we have been dealing with for, you know, as we have been moving through transition and change, is staying at least a neutral state, or spending as little time as possible dwelling on the stuff we don't want that's a potential.
And also, I don't know why, it's kind of actually it's a little off topic, but something I just feel led to say right now is, because I don't know, maybe it's because I've been seeing it a lot, or like a lot of people I know have been talking about it, or myself, or whatever the case is, but I know everybody isn't like fortunate enough to have family members, specifically their mom, who like is well versed around like a lot of topics and understands how a lot of things feel, excuse me, and can like actually give them a new perspective in a like way that actually helps, because like a lot of parents, people don't have that. And a lot of people also think that therapy is just for like people who are crazy or people who are like, I don't know, people, but I feel like therapy, there's like a kind of negative connotation around it, and it's really not that. And if you don't have somebody in your family or who's close to you you can talk to, therapy is a great option. It's not for crazy people. And that's
You
my
know,
piece.
thank you for bringing that up, because I think probably what happens too in therapy, why therapy helps some people, is because in speaking on their circumstances or whatever, there can be a new perspective gained.
Yeah, and for me, it was that, and it was just like, not that I don't like feel comfortable talking about it with like you or other people I'm close to, because I still did that too, but like just talking to somebody who has no bias towards you and who's not obligated to be necessarily nice to you or to sugarcoat anything. Like, your therapist is really going to tell you how it is, and they're really going to like, even if it, they're not hopefully trying to hurt your feelings, but like if the truth is going to hurt your feelings, your therapist is probably more inclined to tell you that than somebody who knows you really well, knows how you're going to react to certain things, and just for that reason too. It's
True.
a good thing.
Thank you for bringing that up.